The universe has rules. Physics, biology, the fundamental laws that govern life and death. In the year 2004, in a remote Spanish village, those rules were already broken. A parasitic organism called Las Plagas had transformed the inhabitants into something between human and puppet, their minds enslaved to an ancient cult's will. But what happens when something arrives that doesn't just break the rules, it laughs at them, reloads, and breaks them again? The sky above the village tore open. Not metaphorically. The actual sky split like fabric, hemorrhaging crimson light that painted the autumn afternoon the color of fresh arterial spray. The ganados in the village square, formerly peasants, now hosts to parasites older than their grandparents, looked up with their milky eyes and groaned in what might have been confusion or hunger. Hard to tell with the brain parasites. The rift pulsed once, twice, then vomited out a figure in a dramatic red coat. Alucard hit the cobblestones with all the grace of a sack of enthusiastic meat, rolled once, and sprang to his feet with his arms spread wide like a demented orchestra conductor. "Hello, Nightmare," he paused, orange-tinted glasses sliding down his nose as he surveyed the medieval village square, the shambling peasants with farming implements, the general rustic aesthetic. Oh. Oh no. Did I take a wrong turn at the Transylvania gift shop? A ganado lurched toward him, raising a pitchfork with the kind of slow, inevitable menace that worked great in horror movies but was less effective against something that had been staked approximately 743 times. He'd stopped counting after Wallachian impalement incident number 3. Cogelo. Cogelo, the villagers chanted, converging with axes and scythes. Alucard's grin widened, showing teeth that were definitely not regulation human. "Oh, you speak Spanish. Fantastic. I've been working on my Español. Let's see. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca?" He tilted his head as a scythe whistled through where his neck had been, because his neck simply wasn't there anymore, just empty air in a coat. "No. Not library people. That's fair, you look more like a pitchforks and torches demographic." He solidified just in time to catch the pitchfork in his hand, yank it away from the ganado, and examine it with the critical eye of a sommelier inspecting a particularly disappointing wine. Rust. Tetanus risk. Poor weight distribution. He spun it experimentally. Although I appreciate the commitment to the aesthetic. Really leaning into the whole angry mob energy. It's very 1890s Romania. I approve. The ganado that had wielded the pitchfork opened its mouth, and something writhed inside, segmented, chitinous, absolutely not standard-issue human anatomy. Alucard's eyebrows rose above his glasses. Oh. Oh. You're not zombies. You're puppets. He leaned in close, studying the parasite with genuine scientific curiosity. That is genuinely fascinating. Parasitic control, retained motor function, coordinated pack behavior. Someone put effort into you. I respect that. Gold star for mad science. He straightened up and drew a gun from inside his coat, a massive, hand cannon monstrosity that looked like it was designed to kill buildings. The Jackal, 13 pounds of fuck you in handgun form. But here's the thing about puppets, Alucard said, almost conversationally. They're still just. Boom. The ganado's head evaporated in a red mist. Wooden. The body collapsed. The other villagers paused, not in fear exactly, because fear required higher brain function, but in some instinctive prey-animal recognition that the food chain had just inverted. Then they charged anyway, because parasites are stupid. That's the spirit. Alucard cackled, drawing his other pistol, the Cassol, slightly less apocalyptic but still thoroughly excessive. Come on then. Let's see if you lot are more fun than the last village that tried to kill me. Spoiler alert, they were not, and I ate their priest. He started firing. If you want to see more overpowered characters dropped into survival horror scenarios, Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment about which character you'd want to see face down the Umbrella Corporation. Would Master Chief survive Raccoon City? Could Doomguy punch Las Plagas into extinction? Let me know below. Bodies dropped with metronomic precision. Headshots, center mass, one bullet through two skulls because Alucard was showing off. A ganado with a chainsaw revved toward him, and the vampire's eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas. Oh my god, you have a chainsaw. That's amazing. That's so, wait. He held up one gloved hand, and the chainsaw wielder actually stopped, head tilting in parasitic confusion. Wait. Is this a Leatherface thing? Are you doing a reference? Because if you are, I need to tell you that I did the chainsaw thing first, and, you know what, it doesn't matter. He shot the chainsaw wielder in the face. I'm not fighting Umbrella Corporation copyright law. More ganados poured from the buildings, the church, the houses, that barn that definitely looked ominous. They moved with disturbing coordination, cutting off escape routes, flanking positions, demonstrating tactical awareness that zombies definitely shouldn't have. Alucard stood in the center of the square, coat billowing dramatically in a wind that didn't exist, and reloaded both pistols with the kind of casual flair that suggested he'd done this roughly infinite times. Okay, real talk, he announced to the advancing horde. I was on my way to kill some Nazis, lovely people, very stabby, one of them's a catboy, it's a whole thing, when some kind of magical bullshit sucked me through a portal. Now I'm in what appears to be Resident Evil 4, yes. I know what that is, I'm immortal not culturally illiterate, surrounded by parasite zombies in a Spanish village that's giving me very strong, this is where the protagonist gets the Chicago typewriter, vibes. He spread his arms wide, pistols aimed at opposite sides of the square. So here's my question, which one of you is the merchant? A distant church bell tolled. The ganados rushed him as one organism. And Alucard smiled. Wrong answer. The square erupted in gunfire, screams, and the wet sounds of meat discovering what 13mm explosive rounds do to structural integrity. Blood painted the cobblestones, the walls, the church steps. A head bounced past a well. Someone's arm landed in a wheelbarrow. Through it all, Alucard laughed, not the theatrical villain laugh, but something genuinely delighted, like a man finally getting to use the good china. Oh, I am going to love this vacation. In the distance, beyond the village, a castle loomed on the hillside. Deeper still, past the lake and the forest, an island facility hummed with the machinery of science gone wrong. And walking the path between them, checking his pistol ammunition and wondering why the president's daughter rescue mission was already going sideways, a government agent named Leon S. Kennedy was about to have the worst day of his considerably bad life. The vampire in the village square reloaded again, surveyed the carnage with satisfaction, and checked the sky where the portal had closed. Well, Alucard mused, when in Rome, or Spain, geography is hard, do as the locals do. He glanced at a twitching ganado. And apparently, the locals like to die screaming. I can work with that. He started walking toward the church, humming something that sounded suspiciously like toccata and fugue in D minor. Behind him, the bodies began to twitch. Because Las Plagas didn't care about headshots. Alucard glanced back, saw them rising, and his grin somehow got wider. Oh, you respawn. This really is like a video game. He cracked his knuckles. Round 2, then. But fair warning, I've got 99 rounds of ammunition and resurrection ain't one. The ganados charged. The screaming started again. And in the hills above the village, something old and parasitic and convinced of its own divinity felt a disturbance. Not a plan disrupted, not yet. But a new variable. Something that didn't belong in this world. Something that was going to make everything so much more complicated. Lord Sadler smiled in his cathedral and rang for his servants. The American agent could wait. This new player needed to be assessed. The church doors hung open like a mouth. Beyond them, darkness and the smell of old incense mixed with something newer, copper and rot. Alucard stepped over the threshold, leaving bloody boot prints on stone that had seen centuries of prayer. Somehow, he suspected none of those prayers had been answered by anything friendly. "Hello?" he called into the gloom, voice echoing off vaulted ceilings. "I'm here for the mass. I brought my own wine." He held up a ganado head that was still blinking in parasitic confusion. "It's O negative. Very vintage." Silence answered him. The kind of heavy, pregnant silence that usually preceded something jumping out and screaming. "Right, so we're doing atmospheric dread." Alucard tossed the head aside and walked down the center aisle between wooden pews. "I can respect that. Very gothic. Very Anne Rice. Although between you and me, her vampires are lightweights. One existential crisis and they're writing poetry. I had an existential crisis once. I responded by drinking England." A bell tolled somewhere above, the church tower, probably. The sound reverberated through his bones in a way that suggested magic or at least something trying very hard to be ominous. Points for commitment to the bit. Alucard called upward. Something creaked in the rafters. He drew the jackal without looking, aimed straight up, and fired. A ganado fell from the ceiling, landing on a pew with a crunch that definitely involved spine. It twitched once, twice, then the parasite inside its neck burst out with a screech, tentacles whipping toward the vampire. Alucard caught it mid-air with his bare hand. "Well, hello there, little friend," he cooed, examining the segmented creature as it writhed in his grip. "Aren't you just the most horrifying thing?" "Yes you are. Yes you are." The parasite screeched and tried to latch onto his face. "Oh, trying to infect me? That's adorable. Let me explain something about my biology." He squeezed. "This is your warning, vampire," the voice on the communicator said. "Submit to Lord Sadler's will, or be destroyed. Las Plagas will bring order to this world. All who resist will be." Alucard crushed the communicator in his fist. Yeah, New World Order, all shall kneel, resistance is futile. You cultists really need new material. He looked up at El Gigante, who was advancing with all the subtlety of a freight train. "But I appreciate the gesture. You sent me a present." "That's very thoughtful. Let's see what's inside." He drew both pistols and fired. The .454 Cassol rounds punched through El Gigante's chest, through and out the back, leaving fist-sized holes that would have killed anything mortal instantly. The creature stumbled, roared again, and kept coming. Regeneration. Excellent. Alucard dodged the tree trunk swing, felt it pass close enough to ruffle his coat. "You know what? I'm keeping you. We're going to be best friends. I'm going to name you Squishy." El Gigante grabbed a pew and hurled it. Alucard turned intangible, let the wooden furniture pass through him like smoke, then rematerialized already moving. He was on the creature's back in a heartbeat, hanging onto its neck. "Quick question, Squishy, what's your deal? Parasite mutation? Targeted mutagenic enhancement? Umbrella Corporation's B-team?" He looked closer at the creature's back, saw the pulsing growth between its shoulder blades. "Ooh, is that your weak point? Is that the glowing spot I'm supposed to shoot?" El Gigante reached back, trying to grab him. Alucard jumped free, landed on the altar with perfect balance, arms spread wide. "Because if we're doing video game logic, I need to know the rules. Do I shoot the weak point? Do I wait for the QuickTime event? Do I unlock the Chicago typewriter after finishing professional mode?" Pause. Then, almost amused, "You mock what you do not understand, creature. 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 Buddy, I'm the no-life king. I'm the Crimson Fucker. I once walked through the Vatican and they had to reconsecrate the building. You're going to need to be more specific about which creature you're referring to. Lord Sadler does not appreciate blasphemy in his house. Lord Sadler can, Alucard paused. Wait. Sadler? As in, the creepy cult leader with the parasite fetish? The final boss? His grin returned with interest. Oh, this is Resident Evil 4. I knew it. Is Leon here? Please tell me Leon's here. I have so many questions about his hair. The voice on the communicator shifted, became sharper. The American agent is occupied. But you, vampire, you are an unexpected variable. One that must be eliminated or controlled. Oh, you're going to control me? Alucard's laughter echoed through the church. That's precious. The last person who tried that was a Catholic priest with anger management issues and a bayonet obsession, and our relationship is complicated. What makes you think your little brain parasites are going to? The church doors exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded. Wood shrapnel and iron hinges scattered across the pews as something massive ducked through the frame. It had been a man once. Maybe. Now it was 8 feet of muscle and rage, skin stretched tight over tumorous growths, eyes replaced by pulsing red sacs. It wore the tattered remains of what might have been villager clothes. In its hands, it carried a tree trunk wrapped in rusted chains. Oh my God, Alucard breathed. You sent me a mini-boss. You actually sent me a mini-boss. This is the best day I've had since the Millennium attacked London. The creature, El Gigante, his gamer knowledge supplied, roared. The sound shook dust from the rafters. The parasite popped like a grape. I'm already infected. With vampirism. And about 3 million other souls. There's a waiting list, and frankly, your resume is shit. He wiped his hand on his coat. No offense. More movement in the shadows, multiple hostiles, coordinating, learning from the first one's mistake. They were getting smarter. Or the parasites were communicating. Either way, it suggested intelligence behind the infection. Alright, tactical assessment time, Alucard muttered, scanning the church. Coordinated attacks, environmental knowledge, ambush predator behavior. Someone's controlling you. And that someone is, he paused. Wait, is there a giant tentacle monster in the lake? Please tell me there's a giant tentacle monster in the lake. I have needs. A door slammed open at the front of the church, the vestry, probably. A figure emerged, backlit by candlelight, wearing the robes of a priest. But the way it moved, all jerky puppet string joints, suggested the man inside was long gone. Mourir es vivir, the priest thing rasped. Mourir es vivir. To die is to live. Alucard translated, tilting his head. Okay, that's either very profound or very stupid. Let me check. He shot the priest in the kneecap. The man collapsed, screaming, very much experiencing the dying part. Yep, stupid. Dying is definitely just dying. Trust me, I'm an expert. More ganados poured from the vestry. 7, 8, a dozen. They filled the church with their moaning chant, surrounding him in a slowly tightening circle. Farm implements gleamed in the candlelight. Axes. Scythes. One guy had a flail, which was just excessive. Alucard holstered his guns. Oh no, he said in a voice dripping with theatrical fear. I'm surrounded. However will I escape this perfectly orchestrated ambush? The ganados charged. Alucard's shadow erupted. Black tendrils burst from beneath his coat, from the floor, from the walls themselves, liquid darkness that moved with predatory hunger. They caught ganados mid-charge, wrapped around throats and limbs, lifted bodies into the air like a child playing with action figures. See, here's the thing about vampires, Alucard said conversationally as his victims thrashed. The real ones, not the sparkly romance novel kind. We're not just undead. We're unalive. We exist in the space between states. And that space. The shadows squeezed. Bodies burst like overripe fruit. That space is vast. Blood rained down, painting the pews, the altar, the statue of Mary watching with serene stone eyes. Alucard stood in the center of the carnage, coat somehow still pristine, and lit a cigarette he'd pulled from nowhere. I really need to find whoever's in charge of this operation, he mused, exhaling smoke that curled upward toward the vaulted ceiling. This whole send waves of mook strategy is getting repetitive. Where's the boss fight? Where's the dramatic confrontation? Where's the monologuing villain who explains their entire evil plan? As if summoned by narrative convenience, a communicator crackled to life somewhere in the church. A device, dropped by one of the dead Ganados, planted there deliberately. Someone wanted him to hear this. Forastero, a voice hissed through static, cultured and cold. You are not the American agent we expected. But perhaps you will serve our purposes even better. Alucard perked up. Ooh, mysterious phone call from the villain. Are we doing this? We're doing this. He snatched up the communicator. Hi. Hello. You've reached the Get Murdered Horribly hotline. For arterial spray, press 1. For decapitation, press 2. For existential dread, please stay on the line and a representative will be with you shortly. The creature charged. Alucard raised the jackal, aimed carefully at the pulsing growth, and the church wall exploded. Not from El Gigante. From outside. A figure tumbled through the rubble, rolled to a stop against a pew, came up in a tactical crouch with a pistol raised and Alucard blinked. The figure blinked back. Tactical vest. Tight black shirt. Perfectly coiffed hair that shouldn't be possible in a combat situation. Knife strapped to his leg. Expression that said I've seen some shit, but this was new shit. Leon Kennedy? Alucard asked. Leon stared at the vampire standing on the altar, at El Gigante preparing to charge, at the lake of blood covering everything, and visibly questioned his life choices. What the hell is going on here? Alucard's grin could have cut glass. Oh, we are going to have so much fun. Leon's gun tracked between Alucard and El Gigante with the precision of a man who'd learned the hard way that hesitation meant death. His finger rested on the trigger, but his expression suggested his brain was still processing the scene. Church interior decorated in early massacre, 8-foot monster preparing to charge, and a grinning maniac in a red coat standing on the altar like he was about to deliver the world's worst sermon. Okay, Leon said slowly, voice tight with professional calm. I'm going to need you to step away from the... El Gigante roared and charged. Not at Alucard. At Leon. Move. Leon dove left as the tree trunk slammed down where he'd been standing, pulverizing stone and sending up a shower of debris. He came up firing, controlled bursts, center mass, textbook threat elimination. The rounds punched into El Gigante's chest with meaty impacts that did absolutely nothing to slow its momentum. Cute. Alucard called from his perch. Very tactical. Very government training. But allow me to demonstrate the advanced technique. He jumped, coat billowing, and landed directly on El Gigante's head. It's called not giving a shit about physics. Leon stared. Who the fuck? Alucard. No, that's not a typo. Yes, I know it's Dracula backwards, we've all read the book. The vampire wrapped his legs around El Gigante's neck like he was riding a mechanical bull. And you're Leon S. Kennedy, government agent, excellent hair, protagonist energy so thick I can taste it. The S stands for Scott, by the way, I looked it up. How do you, get off that thing before IT? El Gigante reached up, grabbed Alucard by the coat, and hurled him through the church wall. The vampire-shaped hole in the stone was almost artistic. Leon watched the arc of the throw, calculated the impact force, and revised his threat assessment upward. Nothing human survived that. He turned back to El Gigante, already reaching for a grenade. One in the head, the next one knows to dodge. You take cover behind a door, the next wave brings axes. Alucard's grin turned sharp. But me? I'm the variable they can't account for. I'm the chaos in their perfect little hive mind. Leon considered this. Weighed it against protocol, against common sense, against every instinct that said don't trust the blood-soaked lunatic. Then his radio crackled. Leon. A voice, female, British accent, professional concern. Are you alright? We detected a massive energy signature at your location. What's your status? Leon keyed the mic, eyes never leaving Alucard. Hunnigan. I'm fine. Ran into a complication. What kind of complication? He looked at the vampire, the demolished church, El Gigante's corpse, and the small ocean of blood. The weird kind, he said finally. Alucard waved cheerfully at the radio. Leon, you need to proceed to the village chief's house. Our intel suggests Ashley was taken there before being moved to the castle. Time is critical. Copy that. Leon released the mic, then looked at Alucard. You. Stay here. Don't kill anyone else. Don't. Oh, I'm definitely coming with you, Alucard interrupted. This is the most entertainment I've had since the Crusades. Besides, he drew the jackal, checked the chamber with casual expertise. You're going to need me. I don't need. The church doors burst open again. Not El Gigante this time. Something worse. Dozens of ganados poured in, but these were different, organized, armed with actual firearms, moving with military precision. Someone had upgraded the difficulty. Leon counted them, calculated his ammunition, ran the math, and came up with a number that meant oh shit. Alucard's grin could have lit the darkness. See? Needed. He raised both pistols. Now, Leon, I want you to pay very close attention to what happens next. Alucard walked back through the hole, dusting off his coat. Rude, the vampire announced. Very rude. I was having a conversation. He looked at Leon. Is everyone here this impolite? Because I'm starting to understand why you shoot first and ask questions never. Leon's gun was aimed at Alucard now. Training overriding confusion. Stay right there. Hands where I can see them. Oh, we're doing the cop voice thing. Alucard raised his hands mockingly. Should I get on the ground? Do you want to pat me down? Because I should warn you, I'm carrying approximately way too many guns and at least 3 prohibited weapons. El Gigante roared again, clearly feeling left out of the conversation. Right, the big guy, Alucard sighed. Leon, can I call you Leon? I'm calling you Leon, that thing has a parasite on its back. Glowing weak point. Shoot it approximately 12 times and it'll. Leon was already moving. Combat roll, come up behind El Gigante, aim for the pulsing growth, fire. The parasite burst from the creature's back with a shriek, tentacles whipping wildly. Leon ducked under one, put 3 rounds into the writhing mass, and watched it explode in a spray of ichor. El Gigante swayed, shuddered, and collapsed forward like a felled tree. Silence. Leon kept his gun raised, scanning for additional threats, breathing controlled despite the adrenaline. Textbook threat assessment. Professional. Competent. Alucard started clapping. Bravo. Bravo. That was beautiful. The tactical role, the weak point exploitation, the stoic action hero landing, you didn't even look at the explosion. Do you practice that? Please tell me you practice that. Leon's gun shifted to Alucard. Last chance. Hands up, identify yourself, and explain what the hell you're doing in my mission area. Your mission area? Alucard's grin widened. Oh, you think you're the protagonist here? That's adorable. He tilted his head. Let me guess, you're here to rescue the president's daughter. Consider it a learning experience. Wait, don't. Too late. The jackal fired. The sound was less a gunshot and more a sonic event. The lead Ganado's torso simply ceased to exist, along with the Ganado behind it, and the stone wall behind that. The 13mm explosive round didn't care about cover or body armor or the laws of reasonable force. The Kasul joined in, each shot precise and catastrophic. Heads evaporated. Limbs separated from bodies with surgical precision. Alucard was laughing, the sound manic and delighted, as he painted the church in abstract expressionism. Leon, despite every professional instinct, found himself watching in something like horrified awe. This wasn't combat. This was art. Terrible, violent, absolutely excessive art. Come on. Alucard roared at the advancing horde. Is that all you've got? I've been killed by peasants with better tactics. At least try to make it interesting. A Ganado rushed him with a chainsaw. Alucard caught it, one-handed, mid-swing. Oh, you again. He looked at Leon. Different guy, same chainsaw. Do they share it? Is it a communal chainsaw? He yanked the weapon free, tossed it behind him without looking. It hit another Ganado, the blade cutting through spine and parasite in one go. Because that seems unsanitary. Leon, operating on pure combat autopilot, was firing now too, controlled bursts, headshots, conserving ammunition because someone had to be professional. A Ganado went down, parasite bursting from its neck. Another collapsed with a knee shot, then a follow-up to the exposed weak point. Nice. Alucard called over the chaos. Very efficient. Very limited resources survival horror. We should coordinate. You do the tactical shooting, I'll do the psychological warfare. Stop talking. Never. More Ganados poured in. The cult was throwing everything at them now. Trying to overwhelm through sheer numbers. It almost worked. Then Alucard's shadows erupted again. The darkness moved like a living thing, consuming Ganados wholesale, pulling them screaming into depths that shouldn't exist inside a church. Leon watched a villager get yanked into the floor and just disappear. No body. No blood trail. Just gone. What the hell are you? Leon demanded. Alucard's head rotated a full 180 degrees to look at him, neck twisting in ways that violated anatomy. While his body kept firing. I'm a vampire, he said cheerfully. No, not the Twilight kind, I actually have standards. The drink virgin blood, walk through walls, regenerate from a drop of blood kind. His head rotated back to normal. It's very traditional. Leon processed this. Added it to the growing list of things that shouldn't be possible he'd encountered in the last 6 years of government service. The list was getting concerningly long. The last Ganado fell. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of brass casings hitting stone and Alucard's satisfied humming. Well. The vampire holstered his guns, surveyed the carnage with the pride of a job well done. That was a delightful warm-up. Shall we proceed to the village chief's house? I believe there's a damsel that needs rescuing and several more waves of enemies that need traumatizing. Leon stared at him. At the church that now looked like the world's worst crime scene. At his own ammunition count, down by maybe 20 rounds, versus the literal hundreds Alucard had expended. You can't be real, he said finally. I get that a lot. Alucard started walking toward the door, stepping over bodies with casual disregard. But here I am. In the flesh. Well, technically in the undead flesh, but let's not split hairs. He paused at the threshold. You coming, Leon? Ashley Graham, 20 years old, taken by a cult that worships parasites. You've been dealing with zombie villagers, terrible merchant who sounds vaguely offensive, and probably a lot of Leon, help, screaming in your immediate future. Leon's expression didn't change, but his gun lowered a fraction. How do you know that? Because I'm very well informed. Alucard walked closer, ignoring the weapon. Also because this is literally the plot of Resident Evil 4, and I know how video games work. Video games. Video games, Alucard confirmed. In my world, well, a world, multiverse theory is complicated, this was a beloved survival horror game. You're the main character. I'm the overpowered DLC nobody asked for. He gestured around the blood-soaked church. Although I have to say, the graphics are incredible. Really captures the viscera. Leon stared at him for a long moment. Then, you're insane. I'm immortal. There's a difference. Alucard pulled out a cigarette, lit it with a finger that briefly ignited with actual fire. But we're wasting time. You've got a damsel to rescue, I've got a cult leader to mock until he tries to kill me, and somewhere in this village there's a merchant who probably sells rocket launchers. We have compatible goals. I work alone. You work constantly traumatized, there's a difference. Alucard blew smoke. Look, Leon, and I'm using your first name because we're clearly bonding. You seem like a competent professional. Good trigger discipline, excellent situational awareness, hair that defies the laws of physics. But these aren't zombies. They're puppets. And puppets have strings. He pointed toward the church tower, where something glinted, a camera, maybe, or just the glint of parasitic eyes watching. Someone's coordinating them. Learning from you. The longer you fight, the smarter they get. You shoot. Do you want to call your handler and explain that you're now partnered with a vampire? Leon looked at his radio. Looked at Alucard. Looked at the mission parameters that had just gone completely sideways. Then he sighed, reloaded his pistol, and followed. If you get the president's daughter killed, I'm shooting you. You can try. Alucard called back. Fair warning though, last guy who shot me turned into a servant. It's a whole thing. Very homoerotic. You'd hate it. Leon questioned, not for the first time, why he'd ever left the Raccoon City Police Department. At least there, the zombies had the decency to stay dead. The village was a graveyard pretending to be a settlement. Smoke curled from chimneys where no fires should burn. Crows circled overhead, waiting for corpses that were already walking. And through it all, Leon moved with the practiced efficiency of a man who'd learned that hesitation meant infection, meant death, meant worse. Alucard followed behind him like a particularly enthusiastic tourist. Oh, is that a well? The vampire pointed at the stone structure in the square. I bet there's something horrible down there. There's always something horrible in the well. Dead bodies, cursed artifacts, that one girl from the ring. Stay focused, Leon hissed, checking corners with his pistol raised. The village chief's house was just ahead, 2 stories of rustic Spanish architecture that probably hid at least a dozen hostels. And keep your voice down. Why? They already know we're here. Alucard gestured vaguely at the rooftops where Ganados watched with milky eyes. See? Audience. They're waiting to see what we do next. It's very sporting of them. Leon counted 7 hostels on the roofs, another 3 in the alleyway to the left, movement in the windows of the chief's house. His tactical assessment painted a grim picture, bottleneck approach, high ground disadvantage, unknown enemy count inside the structure. Standard protocol would be to call for backup, establish a perimeter, wait for tactical support. But Ashley didn't have time for protocol. We go in fast, Leon said quietly. I take point, you watch though. Alucard walked directly toward the front door. Or you could just do that, Leon finished, already moving to cover the vampire's completely exposed approach. Christ. I'm Jewish, Alucard called back. Well, I was Jewish. Then I was Christian. Then I was a lot of things. Religion is complicated when you're 500 years old. A ganado dropped from the roof, axe raised, screaming Dietrich's to Ti, imbecile. Alucard caught the axe blade between his palms. They're calling her, the sample. She's been taken to the castle, Salazar's estate. You'll need to cross the lake. Leon closed his eyes, ran the tactical assessment. Castle meant fortified position, high ground advantage, probably a lot more than just ganados. His ammunition was finite. His body was already accumulating bruises. And he had a vampire. Copy that, he said. Proceeding to the castle. Alucard was examining a photograph on the wall. The village chief, younger, surrounded by smiling peasants before the parasites came. You know what's sad, the vampire said quietly. These people were real. Had lives, families, probably argued about whose cow was blocking whose road. Then someone infected them, turned them into puppets, erased everything they were. His finger traced the frame. In my experience, that's worse than death. Death is honest. This is theft. Leon looked at him, seeing something beyond the manic grin for the first time. Something old and tired and maybe even sad. You almost sound like you care, Leon said. I care about consent, Alucard replied, turning away from the photo. I'm a monster by choice. These people didn't choose anything. Someone stole their autonomy, their will, their selves. His expression hardened. And I really don't like thieves. Before Leon could respond, his radio crackled again. Leon, be advised. We're picking up increased activity around the lake. Whatever you did in the village, it got someone's attention. Someone named Sadler. Leon guessed. How did you? Yes. Lord Osmond Sadler, leader of Los Illuminados. He's been quiet since you entered the area, but now he's mobilizing forces. It's like he's testing us, Alucard finished. Seeing what we can do. Classic villain behavior. Probably watching through cameras or psychic parasite link or interpretive dance, who knows. Mid-swing. Behind me, imbecile, he translated thoughtfully. That's actually solid tactical advice. Leon, there's someone behind you. Leon spun, already firing. The ganado behind him, when had it gotten behind him, collapsed with a hole where its brain used to be. Thanks, Leon said tightly. Teamwork. Alucard yanked the axe away from his attacker, examined it critically. You know, these really are quality implements. Proper forging, good edge retention. Where do you people buy these? Is there a parasite zombie hardware store? He threw the axe. It spun end over end and buried itself in a ganado on the roof. The body toppled backward with a wet crunch. Timber. Alucard announced cheerfully. More ganados poured from the alleyways, the houses, the barns, coordinated assault, surrounding them in the square. Leon backed toward Alucard, forming a defensive position, mind already calculating ammunition versus enemy count. The math didn't look good. Okay, Leon said. New plan. We fight our way to the house, barricade inside, wait for an opening. Boring. Alucard's shadow spread beneath him like spilled ink. Here's my plan. You go rescue the girl. I'll handle the welcoming committee. You can't take all of them. The shadows erupted. Tendrils of darkness burst from the ground, the walls, the well, the sky, animated by hunger and malice and something that laughed at the concept of mortality. They wrapped around ganados like serpents, lifting bodies into the air, slamming them into stone with bone-breaking force. Alucard stood in the center of the carnage, arms spread, coat billowing in wind that came from nowhere, eyes glowing red behind his orange glasses. "I am the Crimson Fucker," he roared at the horde. "I have drunk the blood of virgins and murderers. I have walked through the Vatican and made them reconsecrate the building. I died and came back wrong, and I've been having a great time ever since." A ganado raised a crossbow. Alucard's shadow caught the bolt mid-flight, crushed it to splinters, then returned to sender through the shooter's chest. "So come on." The vampire's grin was manic, delighted, absolutely unhinged. "Let's see what your little brain parasites can do against something that's already dead." Leon, despite everything, the training, the professionalism, the government-mandated psychological conditioning, could only stare. This wasn't combat. This was a force of nature. "Leon." Alucard's voice cut through the chaos. "The house. Go. Right. The mission. Ashley. Focus." Leon ran. Behind him, the screaming intensified. He didn't look back. Looking back would mean processing what Alucard was doing to those bodies, and he really didn't have the mental bandwidth for that kind of trauma right now. The chief's house door was locked. Leon kicked it open, solid impact, proper technique, door splintering off its hinges. He entered weapon first, clearing corners, scanning for threats. Empty ground floor. Disturbed furniture. Signs of struggle. Blood on the walls, old blood, dried to brown. Stairs leading up. Leon ascended carefully, each step deliberate, pistol tracking his sightline. The second floor was darker, lit only by the afternoon sun filtering through shuttered windows. He could hear movement in the back room, heavy breathing, shuffling. He approached the door, tried the handle. Locked from inside. "Ashley," he called. "Ashley Graham. I'm with the government. I'm here to." The door exploded outward. Not from inside. From something tackling it from the outside through the second-story window. Leon barely dodged the mass of wood and glass and rotting flesh that crashed into the hallway. He came up firing, 3 round center mass into what had been the village chief, now a grotesque mutation of spine and teeth and pulsing parasites. The chief thing roared, grabbed Leon by the tactical vest, and threw him through the opposite wall. He grinned at Leon. "Which means we're about to get really popular." As if on cue, a bell tolled across the village, deep, resonant, wrong. The remaining ganados stopped attacking. Just stopped. Stood still in perfect synchronization, heads tilting toward the castle in the distance. Then they moved. Not toward Leon and Alucard. Away. Retreating with military precision, disappearing into buildings, into the forest, into the shadows. In 30 seconds, the village was empty. Leon had seen a lot of horror in his career. Raccoon City. The president's daughter's kidnapping. The thing with the cult in Spain that he was currently dealing with. But somehow, this silence was worse. "They're regrouping," he said quietly. "Consolidating forces at the castle. Or laying a trap," Alucard added. "Or both. I'm betting both." He started walking toward the village exit, toward the path that led to the lake. "Either way, we're going to that castle. Your damsel awaits, and I have a burning desire to meet this Sadler character. Anyone who can coordinate this many puppets deserves either my respect or my bullets." "Probably your bullets," Leon muttered, following. "Oh, definitely my bullets. But I'll start with respect. I'm polite like that." They walked through the empty village, past the bodies, past the blood, past the evidence of everything that had gone wrong in this place. The afternoon sun was starting to dip toward the horizon, painting everything in orange and gold. "Leon," Alucard said suddenly. "When we get to the castle, and we will get to the castle, things are going to get weird. Weirder than a vampire eating brain parasites. So much weirder. Alucard's grin returned. There's going to be a Castellan. He's going to be short, Spanish, and incredibly annoying. I'm probably going to kill him in a way that violates several conventions of warfare. Try not to. Leon hit the bedroom hard, rolled with the impact out of pure instinct, came up already reaching for his knife because the pistol was gone, lost in the debris. The chief thing lunged through the hole, mouth opening impossibly wide, revealing rows of teeth that belonged on a shark. Alucard's hand burst through the chief's chest from behind. Knock knock, the vampire said pleasantly. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help noticing you were throwing my new friend through walls, and that's my job. He yanked his hand back, pulling something pulsing and organic with it. The chief thing convulsed, screeched, and collapsed forward. Alucard examined the parasite in his hand with scientific curiosity. Oh, you're a big one, he cooed. Look at you. So many teeth. Such aggressive reproductive strategies. The parasite whipped toward his face. He ate it in one bite. Mmm. Crunchy. Leon stared from his position on the floor, trying to remember how to breathe. We've established I have a complicated relationship with organized religion. Alucard glanced around the room. So. Village chief. Dead. Very dead. Extremely dead. Where's the president's daughter? Leon retrieved his pistol, checked the chamber, and moved to the closet in the corner. Locked. He shot the lock off and pulled it open. Empty. Damn it. He keyed his radio. Hunnigan, the chief's house is clear. No sign of Ashley. She's been moved. We're tracking radio chatter from the cultists. I make no promises. They reached the village gate, beyond which the forest waited, dark and deep. But I'll try to keep the collateral damage to a minimum. Scout's honor. Were you ever a scout? I was a Wallachian warlord. Close enough. Leon sighed, checked his weapons one more time, and stepped into the forest. Behind them, in the empty village, the church bell tolled again. And in his castle, watching through parasitic eyes and crystalline technology, Lord Osmond Sadler smiled and prepared his next move. The American agent was predictable. Competent, but predictable. The vampire, however. The vampire was chaos. And chaos could be weaponized. Or eliminated. Sadler pressed his fingers together and began to pray. The castle gates stood open like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Gothic architecture loomed overhead, towers that clawed at the sky, gargoyles that seemed to track their movement, stonework that predated gunpowder and hadn't improved with age. Leon approached with his pistol raised, scanning for sentries, cameras, tripwires. The courtyard beyond the gates was empty. Too empty. Every instinct screamed ambush. Alucard walked straight through the gates without hesitation. Alucard. Leon hissed. What? I'm entering dramatically. The vampire spread his arms, addressing the empty courtyard. Hello, castle. I'm here to critique your decor and probably kill your owner. If anyone would like to surrender now, form an orderly line to my left. Silence answered him. Then, echoing from hidden speakers, a voice, high, reedy, aristocratic. Welcome, strangers, to my humble abode. A screen flickered to life on the courtyard wall. Closed-circuit television, showing a figure that made Leon's skin crawl. A child's face on a man's body, or maybe the reverse. Ramon Salazar, Castellan of this nightmare, smiled with too many teeth. I am Ramon Salazar, the 8th Castellan of this magnificent architecture. And you are trespassers. Trespassers. Alucard tilted his head. We prefer uninvited guests. More polite. Also, he squinted at the screen. Are you a child? You look like someone put a kid's head on a mannequin. Is that the parasite's doing, or were you always like that? The smile froze on Salazar's face. I am a grown man of noble lineage. You're like 4 feet tall. I am 5 feet, Salazar stopped himself, visibly composing. No matter. You have caused Lord Sadler considerable inconvenience. The village, the lake creature, my carefully organized security measures, all disrupted by your reckless violence. You're welcome, Alucard said cheerfully. Leon kept his weapon trained on likely sniper positions. The walls, the tower windows, the ramparts. Courtesy. They plunged into the castle's interior just as the courtyard behind them erupted in flames, some kind of incendiary trap triggered by their escape. Salazar's voice echoed from speakers mounted in the stone walls. You may have survived the courtyard, but the castle itself is my domain. Every corridor, every chamber, every shadow serves my will. You cannot escape. You cannot win. Alucard looked around the entrance hall. Suits of armor lining the walls, tapestries depicting historical atrocities, chandeliers that probably doubled as death traps, and grinned. Leon, he said seriously, I think I'm in love with this place. Focus. I am focused. I'm focused on how much fun we're about to have. Alucard examined a suit of armor, knocked on its helmet. Do you think these animate? Please tell me these animate. I've always wanted to fight animated armor. Leon was studying the hallway ahead. Multiple branching paths, no clear indication which led to Ashley. His radio crackled. Leon, are you there? Your vitals are spiking. I'm fine, Hunnigan. Inside the castle now. Multiple hostiles, environmental hazards, and a Castellan with a Napoleon complex. Standard Tuesday. Standard, Leon, this is anything but standard. We're picking up massive energy readings throughout the structure. Whatever Salazar's planning, it's big. Any idea where they're holding Ashley? Thermal imaging suggests the eastern tower, but Leon, there's something else. A heat signature in the lower levels that's static burst across the channel. Organic but wrong, like nothing in our database, more static. Be careful. The radio cut out. Leon tried to re-establish contact. Nothing. Jammed, probably. Or the castle's stone walls were too thick. Either way, they were on their own. So, Alucard said brightly, Eastern Tower. They all coming from? The castle has rooms, Leon. So many rooms. It's very spacious. Alucard shot a cultist mid-leap, the body spinning backward in a spray of blood and fabric. I'm starting to understand why video game protagonists have such high body counts. A massive cultist, easily 7 feet, wearing ornate armor, charged through the melee with a warhammer that looked like it weighed 200 pounds. It swung at Alucard with crushing force. Alucard caught the hammer one-handed. Oh, hello big guy. The vampire examined the cultist with interest. Custom mutation. Enhanced strength protocol. I appreciate the commitment to the boss fight aesthetic. He yanked the hammer away, spun it experimentally. But you're still thinking too small. He swung the hammer back at its original owner. The impact sent the armored cultist through a stone wall. Literally through. The cultist-shaped hole in the masonry was almost cartoonish. Strike! Alucard called. Someone mark that down. I want credit. On the screen, Salazar watched with growing displeasure. His carefully orchestrated welcome had become a slaughter. Again. The American agent was competent but manageable. The vampire was a problem. Enough, Salazar hissed. I grow tired of this game. Guards. Seal the courtyard. Activate the traps. Heavy portcullises slammed down, blocking the exits. The floor beneath Leon and Alucard's feet trembled, and sections of cobblestone began to move. Rotating, revealing spike pits, crushing mechanisms, trap doors opening to darkness below. Oh, now we're talking. Alucard leaped to a safe section as the floor beneath him disappeared. Environmental hazards. This is proper dungeon design. Leon jumped to the fountain's edge, using it as stable ground while the courtyard transformed into a death trap. Cultists fell into their own traps. Impaled, crushed, dropped into pits where something screamed from below. Alucard. Leon pointed to a tower door still accessible. There. We need to get inside before. The fountain exploded. Not metaphorically. Something beneath the water detonated, sending Leon flying backward. He hit the ground hard, tactical vest absorbing some of the impact but not enough. His vision blurred. Ears ringing. Pistol somewhere to his left. Cultists converged on him. Then Alucard was there, coat billowing, shadows erupting from beneath him like a tidal wave. The darkness caught cultists, lifted them, threw them against walls hard enough to leave wet stains. Touch him and I'll show you what your intestines look like as a scarf, the vampire roared. Leon struggled to his feet, grabbed his pistol, forced his vision to clear. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. Probably concussion. Definitely going to feel that tomorrow. If there was a tomorrow. Can you move? Alucard asked, the manic energy momentarily replaced by something almost like concern. Yeah. Leon wiped blood from his eyes. Yeah, I'm good. Excellent. Because we need to get inside before Mr. Tiny Napoleonic Complex drops the actual castle on us. Alucard pointed to the tower door. Run. I'll cover you. Leon ran. Behind him, the Jackal and Cassul created a symphony of destruction. Each shot was a cultist down, a parasite destroyed, another obstacle removed. Alucard was laughing again, the sound manic and somehow reassuring. If he was laughing, they weren't losing. Leon hit the tower door, tried the handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. Move. Alucard slid to a stop beside him, holstered one pistol, and punched the door. The reinforced wood exploded inward, lock and hinges scattering like shrapnel. After you, the vampire said with exaggerated. Controlled bursts, prioritizing targets with ranged weapons. A cultist with a crossbow went down, bolt falling harmlessly. Another fell with a headshot that exposed the parasite beneath. Alucard drew his pistols and started laughing. Come on then, he roared, firing both the Jackal and Cassul simultaneously. Let's see what your parasites can do against superior firepower. The courtyard became a killbox. Leon used the fountain for cover, picking targets methodically while managing his ammunition. Headshot, knee shot then parasite shot, tactical reload, suppressing fire to keep cultists from flanking. Alucard stood in the open and dared them to hit him. Crossbow bolts punched through his body, shoulder, chest, abdomen, and he didn't even slow down. Just kept walking forward, kept firing, kept grinning that terrible grin while his body leaked blood that should have been fatal. That tickles. He announced, pulling a bolt from his chest and examining it. Is this iron? You know iron doesn't work on vampires, right? That's werewolves. Common mistake. He threw the bolt back like a javelin. It punched through a cultist's skull with enough force to pin the body to the wall behind them. Leon, despite the tactical situation, couldn't help but stare. The wounds in Alucard's body were closing. Regenerating in real time, flesh knitting itself back together like time running in reverse. Eyes on your targets, Leon. Alucard called without looking. I know I'm fascinating, but you've got 3 on your 6. Leon spun, fired, 3 rounds, 3 cultists down. He didn't question how Alucard knew. At this point, vampire superpowers were the least weird thing about this mission. The cultists kept coming. They didn't retreat, didn't break formation, just kept attacking with mechanical precision. The parasites were coordinating them, treating bodies like chess pieces. They're not stopping. Leon reloaded, brass casings scattering. Where are? Or mysterious basement with the ominous heat signature. I vote mysterious basement. We're getting Ashley first. Boring. But Alucard started toward the eastern corridor anyway. Although I respect the commitment to mission parameters. Very professional. Your government trained you well. They moved through the castle interior with Alucard taking point, mostly because he was bulletproof and seemed to regard mortality as a suggestion. Leon covered their rear, watching for ambush points. The architecture was oppressive. Vaulted ceilings disappeared into shadow. Portraits watched them pass with eyes that seemed to follow. Every few yards, another speaker crackled with Salazar's running commentary. You walk through my home like invaders, destroying centuries of history. Your home is a bioweapon laboratory disguised as a castle. Leon called back. And your decor is terrible. How dare. A wall section rotated, revealing cultists with flamethrowers. Holy. Leon dove behind a pillar as fire washed across the corridor. Heat seared the air. Stone blackened. His tactical vest smoldered. Alucard walked through the flames like they were a mild inconvenience. Gentlemen, the vampire announced to the flamethrower-wielding cultists. I appreciate the warm welcome, but I'm going to have to ask you to stop doing that. He shot both cultists in the face with the jackal. The flamethrower tanks exploded, turning the corridor into an inferno. Alucard walked back through the fire, completely unsinged, and offered Leon a hand up. You alright? Leon looked at his scorched vest, his singed hair, his everything that hurt. I need a vacation, he muttered. After we rescue the girl. Alucard pulled him up. Come on. The tower awaits, and I have a strong suspicion there's going to be a boss fight. They ran deeper into the castle, leaving burning corpses and Salazar's impotent rage echoing behind them. Somewhere ahead, Ashley waited. And somewhere below, something ancient and hungry stirred in the darkness. The eastern tower spiraled upward like a stone tumor. Each step brought them higher into Salazar's domain, past windows that showed the countryside far below, forests, villages, the lake where Del Lago's corpse probably floated like a grotesque landmark. Leon climbed with tactical awareness, checking each landing for hostiles. Alucard followed with the casual enthusiasm of a tourist, occasionally stopping to examine architectural details. Look at this masonry. The vampire ran his fingers along a stone joint. 15th century, probably. Before they had proper mortar. They just stacked rocks and hoped geometry would hold everything together. He knocked on the wall. Very authentic. Very, we don't understand tensile strength yet. Can you? Leon paused on a landing, breathing hard. The stairs were endless. Save the architecture appreciation for later. I'm multitasking. I can admire craftsmanship and prepare to murder people. Alucard bounded up past him. Also, you're winded. When's the last time you did cardio? I literally fought a sea monster 20 minutes ago. And? I'm 500 years old and I'm not complaining about stairs. Leon was about to respond when a door above them burst open. Cultists poured onto the stairwell, at least a dozen, armed with crossbows and those improbable medieval weapons that shouldn't be effective but somehow were. Finally. Alucard drew both pistols. I was getting bored. The stairwell erupted in gunfire and screaming. Leon pressed against the wall, letting Alucard's suppressing fire do its work while he picked targets, cultists trying to flank, crossbowmen aiming for Alucard's head. The vampire was effectively bulletproof, but Leon had learned that effectively wasn't the same as completely. A cultist with a morning star charged down the stairs. Alucard shot him in the kneecap. The Cassol round didn't just shatter bone, it removed the knee entirely. The cultist tumbled forward, morning star flying loose. Njij, surprisingly heavy. How much does a wall weigh? This seems excessive. The room kept shrinking. 20 feet across. 15. 10. We need another way out. Leon scanned the ceiling, the floor, looking for hatches, weak points, anything. Ashley grabbed his arm. The windows. They shut but they didn't lock. Leon looked. She was right. The windows had closed but the mechanisms were visible. Simple latches, probably meant to be sealed from outside after the room finished crushing its victims. Alucard. The windows. Kind of busy holding up the ceiling. The vampire's arms shook with effort, shadows straining against tons of stone. You're going to have to handle this one. Leon ran to the nearest window, Ashley behind him. The latch was simple but stuck, rust or deliberate sabotage. He shot it. The latch shattered. The window didn't budge. It stuck. Kick it. Ashley suggested. Leon kicked it. His government-issue boots met medieval craftsmanship and medieval craftsmanship won. Pain shot up his leg. Harder. Alucard shouted from the center. Pretend it's your feelings about this entire situation. Leon kicked again, putting everything into it, frustration, exhaustion, 6 years of biological horror and government incompetence and missions that went sideways. The window exploded outward, glass and wood scattering into the open air beyond. Wind rushed in. Daylight. Freedom. And a 300-foot drop to the rocks below. Oh, Ashley breathed. Oh no. The walls were 5 feet apart now. Alucard's shadows were flickering, straining. Leon, the vampire called. I have a terrible idea. What? Jump. What? Trust me. Jump. Alucard released the walls, ran toward them, grabbed both Leon and Ashley in a tackle that sent all 3 of them through the window. They fell. Ashley screamed. Leon's training kicked in. Calculate fall speed, impact probability, survival likelihood, and came up with 0% chance. Then Alucard's coat billowed. Leon didn't bother checking if it was locked. He kicked it open. The room beyond was circular, windowed on all sides, offering a panoramic view of Salazar's domain. And in the center, chained to a chair with manacles that looked decorative but probably weren't. Ashley Graham. 20 years old, orange sweater, knee-length skirt, terrified eyes that lit up when she saw Leon. Oh thank God. You're here. You're actually. Her relief died as she noticed Alucard entering behind him. Who is that? Alucard, the vampire said with a small bow. Professional monster, part-time rescue assistant, full-time problem for people who chain young women to chairs. He examined the manacles. Interesting. These are silver-plated. Someone expected supernatural complications. Leon was already moving to Ashley, scanning her for injuries, signs of infection, parasite emergence. Her neck was clear. No visible wounds. But her pupils were dilated, and there was a mark on her hand, recent injection site. Are you hurt? He asked. I don't think so. They kept saying something about a gift, and then they injected me with something, and it hurt, Leon, it felt like. She stopped, eyes widening. Wait. Leon Kennedy. You're Leon Kennedy. My father sent you. Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm being rescued by the Raccoon City survivor. She looked between Leon and Alucard. And a vampire, apparently. Is this real? Am I hallucinating? Did the injection make me hallucinate? You're not hallucinating, Leon assured her, working on the manacles. They were locked with a mechanism that looked designed to require a specific key. Of course. Hold still. Alucard examined the chains from another angle. Leon. These aren't just restraints. They're a trap. What? The vampire pointed to thin wires running from the manacles to small devices mounted on the chair. Pressure sensors. The moment you remove the manacles, something goes boom. Classic castle security. He grinned at Ashley. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Salazar, through the castle's speakers, sounding smug. Before it matures. Before it grants her the gift of communion with our glorious cause. I'm afraid you're too late. The sample has been infected for hours. Even now, the Plagas grows, learns, prepares to take control. A giggle. Soon, she'll be ours. And through her, your president. And through him. America. Ashley's hand went to her neck. No. No, no, no. He's bluffing, Leon said firmly. We'll remove it. There's always a way. Is there? Alucard asked quietly. He was looking at Ashley with an expression Leon couldn't read. Leon, if the parasite is already gestating. We'll deal with it. How? You going to shoot it out of her skull? Perform emergency surgery with a combat knife? Hope really hard. I said we'll deal with it. Leon's voice came out harder than intended. Ashley flinched. Alucard held up his hands. Okay. Okay. We'll deal with it. But his eyes said, you're lying to her and yourself. Another alarm. Closer this time. The castle was mobilizing, sending everything they had. We need to move, Leon said. Now. They ran across the rooftops, leaping gaps, sliding down tiles, Ashley keeping pace through pure adrenaline. Behind them, cultists poured from doorways, crossbows tracking their movement. Ahead, a balcony. Below that, a hall. And beyond that. There. Ashley pointed. That tower. I saw guards taking people there. If there's prisoners, there might be a way out. Leon looked. The tower was distant, across 2 courtyards and through what looked like the main hall. Heavily fortified. Probably trapped. Your kidnapper is paranoid. Can you disarm it? Leon asked. Can I? Obviously. But that's not the question. Alucard crouched, following the wires to their source. The question is, do we disarm it, or do we take the chair with us? Ashley stared. Take the chair. It's a good chair. Solid construction, comfortable backrest. We're disarming it, Leon said firmly. Fine, fine. No sense of adventure. Alucard's fingers worked the wires with surprising delicacy. Ashley. Can I call you Ashley? You didn't say I couldn't. Do you feel any parasite symptoms? Headaches, violent urges, sudden desire to worship a cult leader? No. Maybe. I don't know what parasite symptoms feel like. Fair point. One wire disconnected. Then another. Leon, on a scale from mildly concerned to catastrophically screwed, how infected do you think she is? Leon had been avoiding that question. The injection site suggested Las Plagas introduction. But the incubation period varied. Hours, days, weeks depending on the strain. They might have time. Or they might have minutes. We'll deal with it once we're out of the castle, he said. Optimistic. I like it. The last wire came free. Alucard pulled a small explosive device from the chair's base, examined it, then tossed it out the window. There. Disarmed, unarmed, and The tower door slammed shut. All the windows slammed shut. The walls began to move. "Oh," Alucard said brightly. "It's a trap. With multiple traps. Nested traps. Trapception." The walls were closing in, the circular room contracting, stone grinding against stone with inexorable force. Ashley screamed. Leon grabbed her, pulled her close to the center as the space compressed. "Alucard. On it." The vampire spread his arms, shadows erupting from his coat. The darkness hit the walls, pushing back against the grinding stone. "This is..." Alucard caught the weapon mid-flight and threw it back. The Morning Star took out 3 cultists on the return trip. "Strike. Spare. I don't know bowling terminology, but I'm killing it." The vampire vaulted over a corpse, landed in the middle of the remaining cultists, and started using the jackal as a club. Sometimes you just need to hit people with a gun. It's therapeutic. Leon advanced behind him, methodically clearing the landing. One cultist tried to retreat through the door. Leon put a round through its spine, then the exposed parasite that burst from the exit wound. 30 seconds later, the stairwell was clear. Bodies littered the steps. Blood ran downward in small rivers, pooling on each landing. Alucard surveyed the carnage with satisfaction, reloading both pistols with practiced ease. "You know what I love about castle architecture," he said conversationally. "Excellent acoustics. Really lets the screaming resonate." Leon checked his ammunition. Down to 4 magazines. Not great. He'd need to scavenge from cultists or hope the merchant had a castle location, because this was rapidly becoming unsustainable. "How much farther?" Alucard asked. Leon looked up the spiral. "More stairs. Always more stairs. Can't be much longer. Tower has to end eventually." "Does it? This is a video game castle. It might just keep going forever. We could climb for hours and discover the tower is actually a metaphor for..." A scream echoed from above. Female. Young. Terrified. "Leon. Help." Leon was running before his brain caught up with his body. Tactical awareness, ammunition concerns, proper threat assessment, all of it evaporated in the face of that scream. He took the stairs 3 at a time, pistol raised, muscles burning. Alucard followed, quieter now, the manic energy replaced by something focused. The stairs ended at a heavy wooden door, ornately carved with religious imagery. "Saints, demons, the eternal struggle between good and evil rendered in oak and iron." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Salazar, through the castle's speakers, sounding smug. "Before it matures. Before it grants her the gift of communion with our glorious cause. I'm afraid you're too late. The sample has been infected for hours. Even now, the Plagas grows, learns, prepares to take control." A giggle. "Soon, she'll be ours. And through her, your president. And through him, America." Ashley's hand went to her neck. "No. No, no, no. He's bluffing," Leon said firmly. "We'll remove it. There's always a way." "Is there?" Alucard asked quietly. He was looking at Ashley with an expression Leon couldn't read. "Leon, if the parasite is already gestating, we'll deal with it." "How? You going to shoot it out of her skull? Perform emergency surgery with a combat knife? Hope really hard?" "I said we'll deal with it." Leon's voice came out harder than intended. Ashley flinched. Alucard held up his hands. "Okay. Okay. We'll deal with it." But his eyes said, "You're lying to her and yourself." Another alarm. Closer this time. The castle was mobilizing, sending everything they had. We need to move, Leon said. Now. They ran across the rooftops, leaping gaps, sliding down tiles, Ashley keeping pace through pure adrenaline. Behind them, cultists poured from doorways, crossbows tracking their movement. Ahead, a balcony. Below that, a hall. And beyond that. There. Ashley pointed. That tower. I saw guards taking people there. If there's prisoners, there might be a way out. Leon looked. The tower was distant, across 2 courtyards and through what looked like the main hall. Heavily fortified. Probably trapped. The main hall was a cathedral of excess. Vaulted ceilings stretched 3 stories high, chandeliers the size of cars hung from iron chains, and a red carpet ran the length of the chamber like a bloody tongue. Portraits of Salazar's ancestors lined the walls, generations of inbred nobility staring down with the kind of genetic bottleneck that explained a lot about the current Castellan. Leon entered first, sweeping for threats. Empty. Too empty. I don't like this, he muttered. Nobody likes this, Alucard agreed, examining a portrait of what appeared to be Salazar's great-great-grandfather, same child face, different period clothing. This is deeply unsettling. Are they all like this? Is it a family curse? Genetic condition? Really aggressive lead paint exposure? Ashley stuck close to Leon, eyes darting to every shadow. Where is everyone? There should be guards, servants, someone. They're watching, Leon said. Waiting for us to reach the kill zone. As if summoned by the observation, Salazar's voice echoed through the hall. Impressive, Mr. Kennedy. You've made it farther than most. But this is where your journey ends. You said that in the courtyard, Alucard called back. And the tower. And the stairs. You have a real commitment problem with your threats, Ramon. My name is Lord Salazar. And my name is Alucard, but you don't hear me demanding formalities. The vampire walked down the center of the hall, arms spread, making himself a target. Come on then. Spring the trap. Unleash the horror. Give me something to shoot. The floor collapsed beneath him. Not suddenly, deliberately. Sections of ornate tile rotated away, revealing a pit that dropped into darkness. Alucard fell with a surprised laugh, coat billowing as he disappeared into the depths. Alucard. Leon rushed to the edge, looked down. Nothing. Just black. Damn it. The walls erupted with cultists. They poured from hidden panels, dropped from the ceiling on ropes, emerged from behind portraits. The cells were occupied. Villagers, mostly, ganados in various stages of transformation. Some still looked human, crying behind bars, begging for help. Others were further gone, parasites visible in their necks, minds already lost to the hive. Ashley stopped at one cell, looking at a woman about her age. The girl's eyes were milky but aware enough to recognize help when she saw it. Please, the infected girl whispered. Kill me. Before I become one of them completely. Please. Ashley's hand went to her own neck, to the injection site. We can't just, there has to be a cure. There isn't, Alucard said quietly. He'd lost the manic energy, replaced by something older. Sadder. Once the parasite matures, it's permanent. The host is gone. Everything they were gets overwritten by the hive. But I'm infected. Ashley's voice cracked. Does that mean I'm going to? We'll find a way, Leon said firmly. He looked at Alucard. Can you do anything? Your powers, the vampire thing. I can kill them, Alucard said. I can make it quick and painless. But I can't cure them. Parasites burrow into the central nervous system. By the time they're visible, they've already rewritten core brain function. He looked at the infected girl. I'm sorry. The girl nodded. Do it. Don't, Ashley started. Alucard raised the casole. One shot. Clean. The girls slumped against the wall, finally at peace. Ashley turned away, shoulders shaking. Leon wanted to say something comforting. But what? Don't worry, we'll remove your parasite somehow. He didn't know how. Didn't know if it was even possible. Salazar said hours. That meant Ashley was on a clock. Keep moving, he said instead. We find an exit, get to extraction, figure it out from there. They moved through the prison wing, past more cells, more infected. Alucard mercy killed the ones who begged. Recover, to disarm her, but she was fast, parasitically enhanced, reflexes beyond human. She kicked him in the chest. Leon flew backward, hit an examination table, felt ribs crack. Ashley advanced, moving with predatory grace, no longer the scared college student. The parasite was awake. And it was learning. Ashley, stop. Leon gasped. My name, she said in a voice that harmonized wrong, is sample 47839. And I serve Lord Sadler. She lunged. Alucard caught her mid-leap, one hand around her throat, holding her suspended. No, the vampire said simply. Ashley, the parasite wearing Ashley, snarled, clawed at his arm. The nails drew blood. Alucard didn't flinch. On the monitor, Sadler watched with interest. Remarkable. The vampire resists the girl's enhanced strength. I wonder. He leaned forward. What would happen if I gave the command to all my children? The laboratory doors burst open. Ganados poured in. Dozens, hundreds, the entire castle's population converging on their location. But they weren't attacking. They were just, standing there. Watching. Waiting. You see, Sadler continued, Las Plagas creates connection. Unity. Every infected individual becomes part of a greater whole. And I. His eyes flared brighter. I am the mind that guides them. The Ganados moved as one, surrounding Leon and Alucard in a tightening circle. You cannot fight them all. You cannot save the girl. You cannot win. Sadler's smile widened. But I am merciful. Join us. Accept the gift. Become part of something greater than yourself. Alucard looked at the hundreds of infected. Looked at Ashley struggling in his grip. Looked at Leon, battered and bleeding, down to his last few magazines. Then he started laughing. Oh, Sadler, the vampire said, grin returning in full force. You really don't know who you're dealing with, do you? I know exactly. The ones too far gone just watched with empty eyes as the group passed. At the end of the corridor, a heavy door. Beyond it, sounds of machinery. Industrial. Wrong for a medieval castle. Leon tried the door. Locked. Of course. Allow me. Alucard kicked it. The door exploded inward, lock and frame scattering. Beyond was a laboratory. Modern equipment, computers, medical devices, examination tables with restraints. Vials of amber liquid labeled Las Plagas, Strain 7. Surgical tools. And on the far wall, a massive monitor showing. A man. Elderly, robed, radiating authority like a personal sun. Eyes that gleamed with parasitic light. Lord Osmond Sadler. Ah, the cult leader said with a smile. The wanderers arrive at last. Welcome, Mr. Kennedy. Welcome, Miss Graham. And welcome, creature whose name I do not know. Alucard, the vampire supplied. The creature thing is getting old. Alucard. Sadler tested the name. Fascinating. A vampire, loose in my domain. I wondered what was causing such delightful chaos. His eyes fixed on Leon. "You've been quite the nuisance, Mr. Kennedy. But ultimately, you've done exactly what we needed." "What are you talking about?" "You brought Miss Graham to us. Allowed us to infect her. And now—" Sadler gestured, and Ashley gasped, hand going to her neck. "Now she serves a higher purpose." Ashley's eyes flickered. For just a moment, they went milky. Leon raised his pistol, not at Sadler, at Ashley. She looked at him, terrified. "Leon? What are you?" "Fight it," he said quietly. "Whatever you're feeling, fight it." "I'm not, I don't feel," her expression changed. Smoothed. The fear disappeared, replaced by something serene and wrong. "I feel perfect." Her hand shot out, grabbing Leon's gun. Twisting it away with strength that shouldn't be possible. Leon tried to. Dozens of them, coordinated, armed, moving with the precision that suggested Salazar had been planning this ambush since they entered the castle. Leon grabbed Ashley, pulled her behind a marble column as crossbow bolts punched into stone. Return fire, 2 cultists down, parasite headshots, tactical reload. A massive cultist crashed through a portrait, wielding a Gatling gun that looked like it belonged on a helicopter. "You have got to be kidding me." Leon dove as the weapon spun up, unleashing a storm of bullets that chewed through marble like paper. He rolled behind a different column. This one wouldn't last long either. Ashley screamed. Leon spun. A cultist had grabbed her, pulling her toward the pit. She fought, kicking, clawing, but the parasite gave the host unnatural strength. Leon raised his pistol, couldn't shoot, might hit Ashley. The cultist jerked, eyes widening. A shadow tendril had burst from the pit, wrapped around its neck. The cultist released Ashley and clawed at the shadow, but tendrils just pulled, dragging the cultist backward into the darkness. The screaming cut off with a wet crunch. More shadows erupted from the pit like demonic tentacles. They caught cultists, yanked them from the walls, pulled them shrieking into the depths. The Gatling gun cultist tried to run. A shadow caught his ankle, flipped him upside down, and slammed him into the floor repeatedly until the gun came apart and the cultist stopped moving. Alucard's voice echoed from below. "Having fun up there?" "Because I'm having so much fun down here." Something roared in the pit. Something that wasn't Alucard. "Oh good," the vampire shouted. "You had a pet. I was hoping you'd have a pet." The roaring intensified. Followed by gunshots. Followed by Alucard's manic laughter. Leon used the distraction, grabbed Ashley, and ran for the far end of the hall. More cultists tried to intercept. He put them down with efficient headshots, conserving ammunition, moving with the kind of tactical precision that came from 6 years of fighting bioweapons. They reached the far doors just as something massive emerged from the pit. It had been human once. Maybe multiple humans, fused together by parasites and mad science into a writhing mass of limbs and teeth and eyes that shouldn't exist. A chimera, a regenerator, something that made Del Lego look positively friendly. Alucard rode on its back like a jockey, one hand gripping a spinal ridge, the other holding the jackal against what might be the creature's head. "Leon," he called cheerfully. "This is Bob. Bob tried to eat me. I'm teaching Bob about consequences." He fired. The massive round punched through the creature's skull, spraying brain matter and parasite tissue across the ornate carpet. Bob collapsed, sliding forward on momentum, carving a trench in the floor. Alucard hopped off, dusted himself off, and grinned. "Miss me?" "What the hell was that?" Leon demanded. "That was Bob. Weren't you listening?" Alucard looked back at the corpse. Or possibly multiple Bobs, fused together. Hard to tell. The parasites get creative down there. There's like a whole laboratory situation happening. Very Umbrella Corporation. Someone's been taking notes. Ashley was staring at the dead thing with wide eyes. There's more of those. Oh, definitely. This castle has layers. Like an onion. Or a cake. A horrible cake made of body horror and Spanish architecture. Alucard reloaded the jackal. But the good news is we're almost to the prison tower. I could see it through the pit. Very convenient sightlines down there. You fell into a pit and scouted? Leon asked. I'm a multitasker. Keep up. Alucard pushed open the far doors, revealing a corridor lined with cells. See? Prison tower. I told you. No. You really don't. Alucard's eyes began to glow red. You want to know what happens when you try to control me? When you think your little brain parasites can override my will? His shadows erupted. Not just tendrils this time. An ocean of darkness, flooding the laboratory, consuming everything. The Ganados screamed as shadows pulled them under, erasing them from existence. And Alucard's voice echoed through it all, multiplied, harmonized with the screams of the damned. I am the Crimson Fucker. The no-life king. I have devoured millions. And you think your insects can control me? The shadows converged on the monitor, on Sadler's face. Let me show you what real horror looks like. The screen went black. The shadows receded like a tide pulling back from shore, leaving carnage in their wake. The laboratory was a tomb. Ganados lay scattered across the floor, some dead, some twitching, parasites burst from their necks like flowers after a plague. The monitor displaying Sadler's face was shattered, sparking with electrical death throes. And in the center of it all, Alucard stood holding Ashley by the throat, his eyes still glowing that terrible crimson. Leon, the vampire said quietly, voice layered with something ancient and hungry. I need you to trust me right now. Leon struggled to his feet, ribs screaming, pistol raised despite knowing it wouldn't do anything. Let her go. I will. But first, Alucard's free hand pressed against Ashley's forehead. I need to have a conversation with our parasitic friend. Ashley's body convulsed. Her eyes rolled back, mouth opening in a soundless scream. Something was happening inside her skull. Alucard's power invading, searching, hunting the parasite that had taken root. What are you doing? Leon demanded. Negotiating. Alucard's eyes never left Ashley's face. The parasite is young, barely matured. It thinks it owns her. I'm explaining why it doesn't. Ashley's body went rigid. Then her mouth opened, and a voice that wasn't hers rasped out. What are you? I'm the thing that eats things like you for breakfast, Alucard replied conversationally. Now. You have two options. Option 1, you release this girl, withdraw peacefully, and I let you die quietly when I remove you. Option 2, you keep fighting, and I eat you, her, and all 3 million souls I've already consumed get another snack. The parasite voice laughed, wet, gurgling, wrong. You cannot remove me, without killing her. I am integrated, we are one. That's the thing about parasites, Alucard said. You're never as integrated as you think. His hand began to glow with that same red light. I've been doing this for 500. How did you do that? I'm a vampire, Leon. We eat souls. Parasites are just, discount souls. Souls light. Alucard pulled out a cigarette, lit it. The trick is finding them before they finish integration. After that, host and parasite become one organism. You can't remove one without killing both. Can you do that for the others? Leon gestured to the village, the castle, the hundreds of infected. Alucard's expression darkened. No. They're too far gone. The parasite in Ashley was maybe 6 hours old. The villagers? Days. Weeks. Some of them probably months. He took a drag, exhaled smoke. They're not people anymore. They're occupied territory. The implications hung in the air like the smoke. So we just kill them all. Unless you have a better idea. Alucard looked at him. This is what bioweapon outbreaks are, Leon. You know this. You lived through Raccoon City. How many people did you have to shoot because they weren't people anymore? Too many. The answer was too many. Leon's radio crackled back to life. Whatever jamming Salazar had deployed must have failed when Alucard destroyed half the castle's systems. Leon. Leon, are you there? Hunnigan's voice, urgent. We lost your signal for 20 minutes. What's your status? Alive, Leon replied. Ashley's secure. Parasite removed. We're in the castle laboratory. Removed? How did you? Never mind. Listen, you need to get out of there now. We're detecting massive energy buildup in the lower levels. Whatever Salazar's planning, it's escalating. Sadler, Leon corrected. Salazar's the Castellan. Sadler's the cult leader. Where is he? Underground cathedral, beneath the castle. Leon, the readings we're getting, it's not just biological. There's something else. Technology that shouldn't exist, energy signatures that don't match any known. The building shook. Not an earthquake. Something deliberate. Rhythmic. Like footsteps, but massive, coming from below. Years. I know exactly where you're hiding. Ashley screamed. Not the parasite. Ashley. Her own voice, terrified and in agony. Stop. Leon moved forward. You're hurting her. I'm saving her. Alucard snarled, and for the first time since they'd met, Leon saw something genuinely dangerous in the vampire's expression. The parasite is wrapped around her brainstem. If I don't remove it now, in the next 3 hours it'll be permanent. So I need you to shut up and let me work. Leon froze. Calculated odds. Weighed options. Came up with exactly one choice. He lowered his gun. Alucard's hand pressed harder against Ashley's forehead. The glow intensified. Ashley's screams turned to whimpers, then silence. Her body went limp. For a horrible moment, Leon thought she was dead. Then Alucard's hand pulled, and something came out of Ashley's head. Not through her skull, through her, like pulling a thread from fabric. An ethereal shape, writhing and shrieking, the parasite's essence separated from its host. It looked like a small, segmented worm made of smoke and malice. Alucard held it up, examined it with clinical interest. Fascinating, he said. Las Plagas don't just infect, they overwrite. They replace neural pathways with their own tissue, creating a biological network. Very elegant. Very horrifying. He looked at the writhing thing. Very dead. He crushed it in his fist. The essence burst like a bubble, evaporating into nothing. Ashley collapsed. Alucard caught her, lowered her gently to the floor. Leon was there immediately, checking pulse, breathing, pupil response. She's alive, Alucard said before Leon could ask. The parasite was young enough that removal was possible. Barely. Another hour and she would have been lost. He stood, wiping his hands on his coat. You're welcome, by the way. Leon stared at him. At Ashley, unconscious but breathing normally. At the scattered Ganados, the destroyed laboratory, the evidence of power that shouldn't exist. Alucard's grin returned. Oh good. A boss fight. I was worried this would be all rescue mission and no dramatic confrontation. We need to extract Ashley first, Leon said. Get her to the extraction point, then. Leon, there is no extraction point. Hunnigan's voice was tight. The cult has blockaded every approach. Roads mined, bridges destroyed, the lake is, we don't know what's in the lake now but our satellite imagery suggests it's big. You're going to have to fight your way out. Another shake. Closer. Whatever was coming, it was ascending. What about air support? Helicopter extraction? They won't risk it. Not with the anti-air defenses Sadler has installed. Leon, you're on your own until you can clear a landing zone. Of course. Of course they were on their own. Leon looked at Ashley, unconscious on the floor. Looked at the single exit, a stairwell leading down, toward whatever was making the castle tremble. Looked at his ammunition count. 4 magazines. Maybe 30 rounds total. Against a cult leader with parasitic mind control, an army of infected, and something big enough to make a castle shake. Alucard, he said. How much ammunition do you have left? The vampire checked both pistols. Enough. I'm more worried about you. You're down to what, 3 magazines? 4. 4. Fantastic. That'll last approximately 12 seconds in a sustained firefight. Alucard holstered the Casul, offered Leon the jackal. Here. Take this. I can't use that. Sure you can. Point, shoot, deal with the recoil. Very simple. When Leon didn't take it, Alucard sighed. Fine. Keep your standard issue pea shooter. But don't blame me when you run out of bullets and have to throw rocks. The shaking intensified. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, stone cracked. We need to move, Leon decided. Carry Ashley. Stay behind me. We find the cathedral, we end Sadler, we clear a path for extraction. That's a terrible plan. You have a better one? Yes. We find Sadler, I kill him while you protect Ashley, then we steal whatever vehicle the cult is using and drive to freedom while I make sarcastic commentary about Spanish architecture. Alucard picked up Ashley gently, cradling her like she weighed nothing. See? Better plan. I'm a genius. That's the same plan. Mine has more style. They moved to the stairwell, descending into the castle's depths. The walls here were older, rougher. Original foundation, probably, from back when this was just a fortress instead of a bioweapon facility. The shaking stopped. Silence pressed in, broken only by their footsteps and Leon's breathing. Alucard moved silently despite carrying a full-grown woman, which was both impressive and unsettling. Leon, the vampire said quietly. When we get down there, things are going to get weird. Weirder than a vampire removing parasites from people's brains. So much weirder. Alucard's eyes gleamed in the darkness. Sadler isn't just controlling parasites. He's becoming them. Integrating himself into the hive mind, becoming a focal point for the infection. He's trying to evolve into something beyond human. How do you know that? Because I've seen it before. Different parasites, different time, same basic principle. Alucard's expression was grim. There was a group in Romania. 1890s. They tried to create a vampire through science instead of the traditional method. Thought they could control the transformation, harness the power without the drawbacks. What happened? They became something worse than either human or vampire. A chimera. An abomination that couldn't die but couldn't truly live. Alucard's grip on Ashley tightened slightly. I had to burn down 3 villages to stop it. And that was just one of them. The stairwell ended at a massive door. Ornate, covered in religious carvings, radiating wrongness like a personal aura. Behind it, something laughed. Not Salazar's high-pitched giggle. Something deeper. Older. Wrong. Come in, gentlemen, Sadler's voice echoed. And bring the girl. I'd like to show you what humanity's next step looks like. Leon checked his pistol one last time. 4 magazines. 30-ish rounds. Against whatever was behind that door. He looked at Alucard. The vampire grinned, eyes glowing, shadows beginning to coil around him like living things. Ready when you are, partner. Leon kicked open the door. The cathedral beyond was a nightmare rendered in stone and flesh. Pews had been pushed aside to make room for something massive. The vaulted ceiling disappeared into darkness where things moved. And in the center, standing before an altar covered in parasitic growths. Lord Osmond Sadler. But not as he'd appeared on the monitor. His body had changed. Grown. Twisted. Parasites emerged from his flesh like grotesque decorations, forming patterns that suggested intelligence and insanity in equal measure. His eyes blazed with that terrible light, but now there were more eyes, dozens of them, opening across his skin, all focusing on the intruders. Welcome, Sadler said with multiple mouths, voice harmonizing wrong. To the future. Behind him, something massive stirred in the shadows. And Alucard's grin somehow got wider. Oh, the vampire breathed. Oh, this is going to be fun. The thing behind Sadler emerged from the shadows like a nightmare achieving physical form. It had been human once, maybe several humans, fused together by parasites and mad ambition. Limbs jutted at wrong angles, mouths screamed from torsos, eyes blinked where joints should be. A Verdugo, Leon's mind supplied from the mission briefing. Sadler's personal bodyguard, enhanced beyond reason, beyond humanity. Beautiful, isn't it? Sadler gestured to the creature with pride. This is what we can become when we shed our limitations. No more weakness. No more mortality. Just perfection through unity. Leon raised his pistol, tracking between Sadler and the Verdugo, calculating which target posed the greater threat. The answer was both. Alucard, he said quietly. Put Ashley somewhere safe. On it. The vampire moved to the side of the cathedral, laying Ashley behind a stone pillar that offered at least minimal cover. He checked her pulse, still steady. Then returned to Leon's side. She's good. Now, about our friend here. The Verdugo lunged. It crossed 30 feet in a heartbeat, claws extended, moving with speed that violated physics. Leon barely dodged, felt talons pass close enough to shred his tactical vest. He rolled, came up firing, 3 rounds into the creature's center mass. The bullets punched through. The creature didn't even slow. Armor! Leon shouted, diving behind a pew as the Verdugo's tail, because of course it had a tail, smashed through where he'd been standing. It's got some kind of exoskeleton. Alucard finished, already engaging. The jackal roared, explosive rounds impacting the Verdugo's carapace with enough force to stagger it. The parasites created a hardened shell. Very insect kingdom. Very annoying. The creature spun toward Alucard, hissed through multiple mouths, and attacked with coordinated fury. Claws, tail, mandibles, all working in concert to overwhelm the vampire. Alucard met it with equal violence. His shadows erupted, catching limbs, redirecting strikes, creating openings for gunfire. The Cassol joined the jackal in a symphony of destruction. Each hit cracked the exoskeleton, exposed soft tissue underneath, but the Verdugo regenerated, parasites knitting the armor back together almost as fast as it broke. Leon! Alucard called, dodging a tail strike that pulverized a pew. Find the weak point. Video game rules. There's always a weak point. Leon was already moving, circling for a better angle. The Verdugo was focused on Alucard, treating the vampire as the primary threat. Smart. But it left openings. There, on the back, between shoulder blades. The exoskeleton was thinner, almost translucent. Parasitic tissue pulsed beneath, glowing faintly with bioluminescent light. Leon aimed, waited for the perfect moment as the Verdugo reared back for another strike. Fired. The round punched through the weak point, into the parasitic cluster beneath. The Verdugo shrieked, body convulsing, limbs flailing in agony. Nice shot. Alucard capitalized immediately, his shadows wrapping around the creature's limbs, holding it immobile. Sadler. Your guard dog needs work. It's got balance issues. Sadler watched from the altar, expression unreadable. Impressive, Mr. Kennedy. But you've only delayed the inevitable. He raised his hands. The cathedral's walls moved. Parasites emerged from the stone itself. Thousands of them, millions, a living carpet of segmented bodies and gnashing mandibles. They poured from cracks, from the ceiling, from beneath the floor, converging on Leon and Alucard in a tide of chitin and hunger. Oh, come on. Alucard released the Verdugo, focused on the swarm. His shadows swept outward like a scythe, consuming parasites wholesale, but for every 100 destroyed, 1,000 more took their place. This is cheating. This violates the boss fight contract. Leon ran for higher ground, leaping onto pews, onto a statue's base, anywhere above the crawling mass. His boots crunched parasites with every step. They climbed his legs, burrowing into fabric, seeking flesh. He brushed them off, crushed them, kept moving. No time to stop. Stopping meant drowning in the swarm. The Verdugo recovered, joined the assault, coordinating with the parasites. It drove Leon toward Alucard, herding them together, compressing their defensive space. We can't keep this up. Leon shouted over the chaos. Too many of them. Working on it. Alucard's shadows were straining, stretched thin trying to contain the swarm. Parasites broke through, latched onto his coat, his face. He ripped them off, crushed them, but more came. Always more. Sadler's controlling them directly. We need to disrupt his. A parasite attached to Alucard's neck. The vampire froze. His eyes went wide, then milky, that same parasitic film spreading across his irises. No, Leon breathed. No, no, no. Alucard's head tilted, movements becoming jerky, puppet-like. His mouth opened, and Sadler's voice came out. Did you think yourself immune, vampire? My children adapt. They learn. They conquer. The shadows turned against Leon. Black tendrils that had been protecting him now lashed out, trying to bind him, drag him toward the swarm. Leon dodged, barely, rolled under a pew as shadows carved through where he'd stood. Alucard advanced, both pistols raised, aimed at Leon with mechanical precision. You should have joined us willingly, Sadler said through the vampire's mouth. Now you'll join us broken. The jackal fired. Leon threw himself sideways, felt the round pass close enough to create a vacuum wake. It hit the wall behind him, exploded, brought down half a pillar. This was bad. This was catastrophically bad. Leon had maybe 20 rounds left. Against a possessed vampire with infinite ammunition and regeneration. Plus the Verdugo. Plus 1,000,000 parasites. Plus Sadler himself, standing untouched at the altar like a conductor orchestrating damnation. He needed a plan. Needed an opening. Needed. Ashley screamed. Leon's head snapped toward the pillar where Alucard had left her. She was awake, sitting up, staring in horror at the cathedral full of nightmares. Ashley. Leon shouted. Stay down. Don't. Too late. The Verdugo had hurt her. Changed targets. Bounded toward her with that terrible insect speed. Leon ran. Knew he wouldn't make it. Was too far, too slow, too human. The Verdugo reached Ashley, claws raised for a killing strike. Ashley's hand shot out, caught the claw mid-swing. Everyone froze. Ashley stood, still holding the Verdugo's claw, and her eyes were glowing. Not parasitic milky. Not Sadler's golden light. Red. Crimson, like Alucard's. No, she said in a voice that harmonized with something ancient. Bad dog. She threw the Verdugo. The creature flew across the cathedral, crashed through pews, hit the far wall hard enough to crack stone. Ashley looked at her hands, confused and terrified. What, how did I? The vampire's essence, Sadler breathed, and for the first time, Leon heard something like fear in his voice. When he removed the parasite, he left traces of himself. She's contaminated. Ashley's eyes tracked to possessed Alucard, who was still advancing on Leon with murderous intent. Understanding dawned on her face. He saved me, she said quietly. And left something behind. She looked at her glowing hands. Something that doesn't like parasites very much. She ran toward Alucard. The vampire turned, fired at her. Ashley dodged, moved with speed that shouldn't be possible, weaving between bullets like she could see them coming. She reached Alucard, placed both hands on his chest, and Alucard handed Ashley to Leon. Hold her, the vampire said quietly. What are you? I'm done playing. Alucard's coat began to dissolve. Not burning, not tearing, dissolving into shadows that spread around him like wings. His guns fell away, unnecessary. His eyes blazed crimson so bright they illuminated the entire cathedral. Releasing control art restriction to level 1, he intoned, voice multiplying, harmonizing with the screams of the damned. Situation. The Millennium Organization has been engaged. Releasing all power limitations. Wait. That wasn't right. There was no Millennium here. But Alucard wasn't stopping. The shadows around him formed shapes. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Figures with weapons, with armor, with the faces of everyone he'd ever consumed. An army of the damned, summoned from within the vampire's soul. Count, 3,424,867, Alucard continued. Plus one very annoying brain parasite I just ate. Leon stared. What is he? I don't know, Ashley whispered. But I think we should get back. They retreated to the cathedral entrance, Leon carrying Ashley, both watching as the vampire's power filled the chamber. Sadler's creature charged, all fury and parasitic rage. Alucard's shadow army met it. The cathedral erupted in violence that made everything before look like a rehearsal. Shadow soldiers swarmed the Sadler thing, tearing at its armor, its limbs, its essence. The creature fought back, killed dozens with each sweep of its blades, but for every shadow destroyed, 10 more took its place. The Verdugo tried to join its master. A shadow with a sword, recognizably medieval, European armor, intercepted it, ran it through, tossed it aside like garbage. And through it all, Alucard walked forward, smiling that terrible smile. You wanted to show me evolution, Sadler, the vampire asked. Let me show you what real power looks like. He reached the creature, placed one hand on what remained of Sadler's human face. You collected parasites. I collected souls. We are not the same. His hand began to glow. Sadler's creature screamed, every mouth, every parasite, every infected cell crying out in unison as Alucard's power invaded. Not just killing. Consuming. Eating the parasites, the host, the hive mind itself. No. Sadler's voice, terror replacing triumph. What are you doing? Stop. You're destroying. Everything, Alucard finished. I'm destroying everything. Welcome to my world. The Sadler thing began to dissolve. Not dying, being erased. Every parasite consumed, every cell devoured, every trace of Las Plagas pulled into the vampire's endless hunger. Sadler's final scream echoed through the cathedral, then cut off. Silence. The shadow army faded. The parasites carpeting the floor went still, disconnected from their controlling intelligence, dying without direction. Alucard stood alone in the center of the cathedral, coat reforming around him, eyes returning to their normal orange-tinted glow. He turned to Leon and Ashley, grinned. "So," the vampire said cheerfully. "Who wants to go home?" The castle was dying. Without Sadler's will coordinating them, the parasites went feral, attacking each other, their hosts, anything that moved. The Ganados collapsed in waves, bodies shutting down as the hive mind dissolved into chaos. Walls cracked as parasitic growths withered and retreated. Somewhere above them, Salazar was probably screaming into his monitors, watching his master's grand design crumble into biological anarchy. Leon carried Ashley through corridors that groaned like living things in their death throes. Alucard walked ahead, both pistols drawn, putting down any Ganados that still had enough coordinated brain function to be dangerous. "Hunnigan," Leon called into his radio. "Sadler's dead. The hive mind is collapsing. What's our extraction looking like?" Static answered him. Then, Leon. "Thank God. We're detecting massive structural failures throughout the castle. You need to get out now. There's a helipad on the North Tower, we can have a bird there in 10 minutes if you can reach it." "North Tower. Copy that." Leon adjusted his grip on Ashley, who was semi-conscious, mumbling something about vampires and glowing hands. "Can you still walk?" "Maybe." She tried to stand, wobbled, grabbed his shoulder for support. "Everything hurts." "Is that normal after having vampire essence purge a parasite from your brain?" "I have literally no frame of reference for that," Leon admitted. "It's normal-ish," Alucard called back, shooting a Ganado that stumbled from a side passage. "You channeled power you weren't meant to have. Your body's in shock. Give it a few hours. Maybe a few days. Possibly a few weeks." Again, no real precedent here. They climbed stairs, more stairs, because apparently Spanish castles were 90% stairs and 10% places where bioweapons happened. Behind them, the sounds of collapse intensified. Stone grinding against stone. Support beams snapping. The whole structure settling like a corpse going through rigor mortis. "Bioweapon outbreak," Leon said, falling back on standard briefing protocol. "Cult leader with parasitic mind control. Standard Umbrella Corporation nightmare, different branding." "And him?" The pilot pointed at Alucard, who was examining the helicopter's interior with interest. "Consultant," Leon said. "I'm a vampire," Alucard corrected. "Let's not lie to the nice pilot." The pilot stared. "Is he serious?" "Very," Ashley mumbled from her seat. "He removed a brain parasite from my head using vampire magic. And I borrowed some of his power to kill a tentacle monster. And now I'm going to sleep for approximately 1,000,000 years." She passed out. The pilot looked at Leon. Leon looked back, expression carefully neutral. "I'm putting all of this in my report," the pilot said finally. "They won't believe you," Leon replied. "I know. But I'm still putting it in." They flew in silence for a while, the castle shrinking behind them, fire spreading through the parasitic biomass. The sun was setting, had it really been less than a day? Leon felt like he'd aged years. "So," Alucard said conversationally. "Where are we going? Please tell me it's somewhere with good food. I've been eating parasites all day and I could really use some actual cuisine." "Extraction point," Leon said. "Then debrief. Then medical evaluation for Ashley. Then probably a lot of paperwork about why a Spanish castle full of bioweapons exploded. Boring. What if instead we went to a bar? I know a great place in London. Well, I knew it in 1945. It might be a Starbucks now. Time is weird. You're not coming with us, Leon said. Wait, can you even leave? You showed up through a portal or something. Alucard paused. Ha. Good point. I have no idea how I got here. Or how to get back. That's potentially problematic. Can you just open another portal? Do I look like I know how dimensional travel works? I'm a vampire, not a physicist. Alucard looked out the window at the Spanish countryside passing below. Although, there was something Sadler knew. Something about the parasites, their origin. They're not natural. They were brought here. From somewhere else. Leon's hand moved to his radio. Hunnigan, are you getting this? Every word. Leon, we need to debrief this Alucard when you land. If there's a dimensional component to Las Plagas, that changes everything. Oh good, Alucard said. Interrogation. I love interrogation. Can I request a specific interrogator? Someone with a sense of humor. Maybe someone British. I do well with British people. You're not being interrogated, Leon said. You're being debriefed. There's a difference. Is there? Both involve a small room and pointed questions about things I'd rather not discuss. Ashley stirred in her seat, opened one eye. Are you two bonding? No, Leon said. Absolutely, Alucard said at the same time. Ashley smiled faintly. Good. Because Leon needs friends. He's very lonely and emotionally constipated. I'm sitting right here, Leon protested. You saved my life, Ashley continued, ignoring him. Both of you. Alucard removed the parasite. Leon carried me through a collapsing castle. And together you killed a cult leader who wanted to use me to infect my father and take over America. She looked between them. So I'm officially declaring you friends. It's a presidential daughter decree. Very official. I like her, Alucard decided. Leon, I'm keeping her. She's my new friend. She's not a pet. Too late. Already decided. Alucard offered Ashley his hand. Welcome to the extremely exclusive club of people who've survived me. Current membership, you, Leon, a priest who tried to kill me, and a small child in Romania who threw a rock at me once. It's very selective. Then her hands began to glow. Faint, flickering, but there. The Salazar thing convulsed. Inside its body, parasites began to burn. Not with fire, with that same crimson light, consuming them from within. No. Salazar's voice, human again, terrified. This isn't how it ends. I'm nobility. I'm chosen. You're done, Ashley said quietly. The light intensified. Parasites burst from Salazar's skin, shrieking as they died. The creature's form collapsed, armor cracking, tentacles withering. And at the center, Salazar's original body, small, pathetic, barely alive. Alucard walked over, looked down at the dying Castellan. Any last words? The vampire asked. Salazar coughed blood. Lord Sadler, will return, the parasites, eternal. Yeah, about that. Alucard crouched. Sadler's inside me now. And he says, the vampire's voice shifted, became Sadler's. You were always my least favorite servant, Ramon. Salazar's eyes widened in betrayal. Then he died, parasites abandoning the host in a final desperate exodus, scattering across the floor before expiring. The helicopter touched down on the helipad. The pilot's voice crackled over Leon's radio. Kennedy. We have maybe 2 minutes before this whole structure comes down. Move your ass. Leon didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed Ashley, who was swaying again, completely drained, and ran for the helicopter. Alucard followed at a leisurely pace, because apparently vampires didn't believe in urgency. They piled into the helicopter. Leon strapped Ashley in, then himself, as the pilot pulled up and away from the dying castle. Below them, Salazar's estate was collapsing into itself. Towers crumbled, walls imploded, centuries of architecture erased in minutes. Parasites poured from every opening, seeking escape, finding only death as they lost the coordination that kept them alive. Jesus, the pilot breathed. What the hell happened down there? Leon, Alucard called, sounding more annoyed than concerned, this is embarrassing. Can you shoot him? Preferably somewhere painful. Leon was already moving, putting Ashley behind cover, raising his pistol. He had maybe 15 rounds left. Needed to make them count. The Salazar thing was massive, but it was also Salazar, vain, theatrical, convinced of its own superiority. Which meant... there. The head. Salazar's original head, preserved at the center of the transformation, still recognizably human despite the parasitic growths. The weak point. The ego that couldn't resist staying visible even in monstrous form. Leon aimed, exhaled, fired. The round punched through Salazar's left eye. The creature screamed, dropped Alucard, clutched at its face. Parasitic tissue tried to seal the wound, but Leon was already firing again. 2 more rounds into the same eye socket, pushing deeper, finding soft tissue underneath. Insufficient, the Salazar thing roared. Its tentacles swept toward Leon, too fast to dodge. Alucard caught them mid-swing. Remember when I said I was tired of playing? The vampire's eyes blazed crimson. I meant it. He pulled. The tentacles ripped free from Salazar's body, taking chunks of parasitic armor with them. The creature stumbled backward, screaming, trying to regenerate, but Alucard wasn't giving it time. Shadows erupted, wrapped around the Salazar thing like chains, holding it immobile. Ashley. Alucard called. Feel up for one more miracle. Ashley looked at her hands. They weren't glowing anymore, but she nodded anyway. What do you need? Touch him. Channel whatever's left of my essence. Give this parasite the worst indigestion of its life. Ashley ran forward. Leon tried to stop her, knew it was dangerous, but she was already moving. She reached the bound creature, placed both hands on what remained of Salazar's human face. For a moment, nothing. Alucard, Leon said as they climbed. What you did back there. That wasn't just vampire powers. No, the vampire agreed. That was something more. A technique I developed during World War II. Releasing the restraints on my power, letting all the souls I've consumed manifest at once. He paused on a landing, looked back. I don't do it often. It's exhausting. And dangerous. Sometimes the souls don't want to go back. The 3 million you mentioned. 3,424,868 now, Alucard corrected. Added Sadler to the collection. He's currently screaming in the back of my head. It's very therapeutic. They reached the North Tower entrance. The door hung off its hinges, offering a view of the helipad beyond, cracked concrete, rusted safety rails, and in the distance, the approaching lights of a helicopter. Almost there, Leon muttered. The floor beneath them exploded. Not from below. From within, something had been waiting inside the stone itself, dormant until they got close. A final trap, a last desperate gambit from a castle that refused to die quietly. Ramon Salazar emerged from the rubble. But not the diminutive castellan they'd seen on monitors. This was Salazar transformed, his body fused with something massive, tentacled, obscene. The same transformation Sadler had undergone, but different. More desperate. More wrong. You. The Salazar thing shrieked with multiple mouths. You killed Lord Sadler. You destroyed everything. Yep. Alucard said cheerfully, already firing. That's kind of our thing. We're very good at it. The bullets punched into Salazar's new form, did exactly nothing. The creature had learned from Sadler's mistake, parasitic armor covered everything, layered and redundant. I'll kill you. Tentacles lashed out, caught Alucard around the waist, lifted him off the ground. I'll feed you to the parasites piece by piece. Ashley shook his hand weakly. Honored to be here. Leon watched them, these two absurd people he'd somehow ended up responsible for, and felt something in his chest that might have been affection or might have been an impending stress ulcer. Hard to tell. The helicopter flew on, carrying them toward extraction, toward safety, toward whatever came next. Behind them, the castle finished collapsing, taking with it the last remnants of Los Illuminados and their parasitic ambitions. In Leon's pocket, his radio crackled one final time. Not Hunnigan. Not the pilot. A voice he didn't recognize. Distorted. Wrong. The sample was lost, it said. But the data remains. Las Plagas will rise again. We'll make sure of it. Leon's hand moved to respond, but the transmission cut off. Untraceable. He looked at Alucard, who had somehow heard it too, expression darkening. That wasn't Sadler, the vampire said quietly. No, Leon agreed. It wasn't. They flew into the sunset, victorious but not safe, successful but not finished. Because there was always another outbreak. Always another threat. Always another nightmare waiting in the dark. But at least this time, Leon wasn't facing it alone. He had a vampire. And a president's daughter who could apparently channel eldritch power. And absolutely no idea how to explain any of this in his after-action report. Leon, Alucard said suddenly. I just realized something. What? We never got to meet the merchant again. I wanted to buy that Chicago typewriter. The vampire looked genuinely disappointed. Do you think he survived? Leon thought about the merchant, standing on his shore, watching the chaos unfold with those knowing eyes. Yeah, he said. I think he'll be fine. Good, a familiar voice crackled over the radio. Because I got a lot of good things on sale, stranger. You'll be back. The transmission ended. Alucard grinned. I love this universe. Ashley laughed, exhausted, pained, but genuine. And Leon, despite everything, smiled. The mission was over. The nightmare had ended. For now. Conclusion. The extraction point was a U.S. military base in Germany, 3 countries away from the Spanish countryside that now resembled a disaster zone. Ashley was immediately whisked away to medical, where doctors with level 5 clearance ran every test known to science and several that probably weren't. They found no trace of Las Plagas. Just unusual readings in her neural patterns that one doctor described as vampiric resonance, then immediately requested a psychological evaluation for himself. Leon spent 6 hours in debriefing, explaining to increasingly skeptical intelligence officers that yes, there was a vampire, and yes, he'd consumed a cult leader's soul, and no, Leon didn't know how dimensional travel worked or why the merchant seemed to exist outside normal causality. The report was classified so heavily it technically didn't exist. Alucard spent those same 6 hours charming the base commander, horrifying the kitchen staff by requesting virgin blood, I'm joking. Mostly, and preventing a minor international incident when he threatened to eat a visiting diplomat who'd made an inappropriate comment about Ashley. 3 days later, they stood at the edge of the base, watching thunderclouds gather over the horizon. The same crimson lightning that had brought Alucard to the Resident Evil universe was building again, tearing holes in reality with casual disregard for physics. "Well," the vampire said, adjusting his coat. "That's my ride." "You're leaving," Leon said. "Not a question. My universe probably misses me. I have Nazis to kill, a catboy to annoy, and a very homoerotic rivalry with a priest to maintain." Alucard looked at Leon, orange glasses reflecting the approaching storm. "But this was fun." "You're good at what you do, Leon Kennedy. Very professional. Excellent trigger discipline. Hair that defies explanation." "You saved my life," Leon said. "Multiple times." "You saved mine too." "Well, my own life." The semantics are complicated. Alucard offered his hand. "Take care of Ashley. She's got something special now. Something that'll fade eventually, but while it lasts, she's going to need someone who understands bioweapon bullshit." Leon shook his hand. "If you ever come back, I'll bring the Chicago typewriter," Alucard promised. "And possibly that merchant. I have questions about his business model." The portal opened. Crimson light splitting the sky, creating a wound in the world that bled shadows and screams. Alucard walked toward it, then paused. "Leon. One more thing." "Yeah." The voice on the radio. The one threatening that Las Plagas would return. Alucard's expression was serious. That wasn't just a survivor. That was something bigger. Something that's been using bioweapons as experiments. "You're going to face it again." "I know," Leon said. "When you do." The vampire grinned one last time. "Make it hurt." He stepped through the portal. The wound in reality sealed itself, leaving only scorched earth and the smell of ozone. Leon stood there for a long moment, then turned back toward the base. Ashley was waiting at the entrance, out of medical, looking healthy despite everything she'd endured. She waved, smiled, looked every bit the college student she'd been before parasites and vampires became her reality. "He's gone," she called. "Yeah," Leon called back. "Did he say goodbye?" "In his own way." Ashley fell into step beside him as they walked back inside. "So what happens now?" Leon thought about his career, the missions waiting, the nightmares that would come. Thought about Raccoon City, about Spain, about every outbreak that seemed to multiply like a hydra's heads. "Now," he said, "we prepare for the next one. Together." He looked at her, this woman who'd survived infection, who'd channeled vampire power, who'd faced down bioweapons and come out changed but not broken. "Yeah," Leon said. "Together." Above them, the sky cleared, the storm passing as quickly as it had formed. In Spain, the castle ruins smoldered, a monument to ambition and parasites and the price of playing God. In his laboratory somewhere cold and distant, a man in sunglasses watched footage of the vampire, of the collapsed hive mind, of the data they'd collected. Albert Wesker smiled. "Interesting," he murmured. "Very interesting indeed." The game was far from over. It was only beginning.